It's your grandpa again. The next story I want to read to you is Jack and the Beanstalk, and this is one of my favorite stories. When I was little, I had a record, and a record was something that was made out of vinyl. It was really thin, and you put a needle. It's kind of hard to explain. There was a needle went down on the record, and the record went around, and it'd have sound come out. And they had these little records that had stories on them. And I used to listen to Jack and the Beanstalk over and over and over and over and over again. And then when I got older, I found out that Jack and the Beanstalk is probably one of the oldest stories that's out there. In fact, it's so old they don't really even know where it came from and who started it. It was just a story that was always there. I really liked the story. Um, I probably did as a little kid plant some magic beans out there, and there was in the little record when Jack is taking Milky White, they sing a song, and I guess I always like singing cows. Oh, there's the Kiki again, and it was "How Do You Moo?" And it's one day we'll be together, and someday we'll meet each other, and you and I will meet. You and I will greet. And we'll say, how do you moo? And I listen to that over and over again. So I am going to read to you the story of Jack and the Beanstalk with a Kiki tale right in front of me. And like every good fairy tale, they all start out the same. Once upon a time. Once upon a time, a poor widow who had only one son named Jack and a cow named Milky White. All they had to live on was the milk the cow gave them every morning, which they carried to market and sold until one morning Milky White gave no milk. What shall we do? What shall we do? Said the widow. Cheer up, mother. I'll go and get work somewhere. We've tried that before and nobody would take you. It's horrible. This kid couldn't get a job, said his mother. We must sell Milky White. And with the money, start a shop or something. All right, mother. Now, I don't know who's going to buy Milky White if she doesn't give milk. So it's already, the plan's a little suspect. All right, mother, it's market day today. I'll soon sell Milky White and then we'll see what we can do. So he took the cow and off he started. He hadn't gone far when he met a funny looking man who said, Good morning, Jack. Good morning to you, said Jack, and wondered, how does this guy know my name? Well, Jack, where are you off to? Said the man. I'm going to market, sell our cow there. Oh, you look the proper sort of chap to sell cows. I wonder if you know how many beans make five? Two in each hand and one in your mouth, Jack, as sharp as a needle. Right you are. And here they are, the very beans themselves. He went on, pulling out of his pockets a number of strange looking beans. As you are so sharp, I don't mind doing a swap with you. Your cow for these beans. Go on, you take me for a fool, Jack said. Ah, you don't know what these beans are. If you plant them overnight, by morning, they'll go right up to the sky. Really? You don't say. Yes, that is so. If it doesn't turn out to be true, you can have your cow back. Right, said Jack, and handed him over Milky White and pocketed the beans. Back home, Jack goes and says to his mother, You'll never guess, mother, what I got for Milky White. His mother became very excited. 5 pounds? 10? 15? No, it can't be 20. I told you that you couldn't guess. What do you say to these? Beans. They're magical. Plant them overnight. What? Exclaimed Jack Mothers. Have you been such a fool, such a dolt? Take that, take that, take that. As for your precious beans, here they go, out the window. Now, off with you to bed. No supper, nothing to drink, not a bit. No way. Get to bed. So Jack went upstairs to his little room in the attic. Sad and sorry he was. At last he dropped off to sleep. When he woke up, the room looked funny. The sun was shining into part of it, yet all the rest was quite dark and shady. Jack jumped up and went to the window. What do you think he saw? What do you think he saw? Why, the beans his mother had thrown out the window into the garden had sprung into a giant beanstalk, which went up and up and up until it reached the sky. So the man spoke the truth after all. The beanstalk grew up quite close past Jack's window. So all he had to do was open it up, give a jump onto the beanstalk, which ran up like a big ladder. So Jack climbed it and climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed. It's a lot of climbing. And climbed and climbed until at last he reached the sky. When he got there, he found a long road going straight as a dart. So he walked along it. And he walked, and he walked, and he walked, and he walked until finally he came to a great big tall house. And on the doorstep was a great big tall woman. Good morning, ma'am, Jack said quite politely. Could you be so kind to give me some breakfast? For he was hungry. He'd done a lot of climbing and done a lot of walking. It's breakfast you want, said the great tall woman. It's breakfast you'll be if you don't move off from here. My man is a giant, and there's nothing he likes better than boys boiled on toast. The giant's going to eat him. You better be moving. He's on his way back. Oh, please, Mom, give me something to eat. I've had nothing to eat since yesterday morning, really and truly. Well, the giant's wife wasn't all bad. So she took Jack into the kitchen, gave him a hunk of bread and cheese and a jug of milk. Jack had it half finished when thump, 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 the whole house began to tremble with the noise of someone coming. Goodness gracious me! It's my husband, the giant. What on earth shall I do? Come along quick and jump in here. She bundled Jack into the oven just as the giant came in. He was a big one, to be sure. At his belt he had 3 cows strung up by the heels. He unhooked them and threw them down onto the table. This is my favorite part. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll have his bones to grind my bread. I love that. It's not very scary. It can be scary, but it's not really scary. Oh, nonsense, dear, said his wife. You're dreaming. Or perhaps you smell the scraps of that little boy you like so much from yesterday's dinner. It's awful. Here you go. Have a wash and tidy up, and by the time you come back, your breakfast be ready for you. So the giant went, and Jack was just going to jump out of the oven and run away when the woman told him, wait till he's asleep. He always has a nap after breakfast. Well, the giant had his breakfast, and after that he went to a big chest and took out a couple bags of gold. And down he sat and counted until at last his head began to nod and he began to snore until the whole house shook again. Jack then crept out, tiptoe, from the oven. As he was passing the giant, he took one of the bags of gold from under his arm, and off he pelted until he came to the beanstalk. He then threw the bag of gold, which of course fell into his mother's garden, and he climbed down until at last he got home and told his mother and showed her the gold. Well, Mother, wasn't I right about the beans? They are really magical, you see. So they lived on the bag of gold for some time, until at last they came to the end of it, and Jack made up his mind to try his luck once more at the top of the beanstalk. It's a whole bag of gold. You think they would have done something else with it. But one fine morning he rose up early, got onto the beanstalk, he climbed and 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 climbed. and climbed and climbed and climbed, 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 and climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed until he came to the great road. And then he walked and 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 walked until at last he came up to the great tall house, like he'd done before. There, sure enough, was the great tall woman standing on the step. Good morning, Mum. Could you please be so good as to give me something to eat? Go away, my boy, said the big tall woman, or else my man will eat you up for breakfast. Aren't you the youngster who came here once before? Do you know that that very day my man missed one of his bags of gold? Very strange, ma'am. I dare say I could tell you something about that, but I'm so hungry I can't speak until I've had something to eat. Well, the big tall woman was curious, so she took him in and gave him something to eat. He had scarcely begun munching when all of a sudden he heard thump, thump, thump. They heard the giant footsteps, and his wife hid Jack away in the oven. All as it had happened before. Fee, fi, fo, fum, and had his breakfast off 3 boiled oxen. Then he said, Wife, the hen that lays the golden eggs. So she brought it. And the giant said, Lay, and it laid an egg, all of gold. Then the giant began to nod his head and had to snore until the house shook. Jack crept out of the oven tiptoe, caught hold of the golden hen, and was off before you could say Jack Robinson. This time the hen gave a cackle, which woke the giant. And just as Jack got out of the house, he heard him calling, Wife, wife, what have you done with my golden hen? The wife said, Why, my dear. But that was all Jack heard, for he rushed off to the beanstalk and climbed down like a house on fire. When he got home, he showed his mother the wonderful hen and said, Lay to it, and it laid a golden egg every time. Well, it wasn't long before Jack had made up his mind to have another try at his luck there at the top of the beanstalk. One fine morning, he rose up early, got to the beanstalk, and he climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed. And climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed. And climbed and climbed and he finally got there. And then he got to the road. And he walked and walked and walked. And walked and walked and walked and walked. He finally got to the big tall house. And went straight to the woman who was standing there. But there was no woman standing there. So he waited behind a bush until he saw her come out with a pail to get some water. Smart. So he crept into the house, got into a big copper pot. He hadn't been there long when he heard thump, thump, thump. As before, came in the giant and his wife. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman, cried the giant. I smell him, wife, I smell him. Do you, dearie? Said the giant's wife. Then if it's that little rogue that stole your gold and the hen that laid the golden eggs, he's sure to have gotten in the oven. And they both rushed to the oven. Jack wasn't there. Lucky for him. So the ogre sat down to his breakfast, ate it, but every now and again he would mutter, Well, I could have sworn. And he'd get up and search the pantry and the cupboards and everything. Only luckily, he didn't look in the copper pot. After breakfast was over, the giant called out, Wife, wife, bring me my golden harp. So she brought it to him, put it on the table, and then he said, Sing. The golden harp sang most beautifully. It went on singing until the giant fell asleep and commenced to snore like thunder. The giant was really big on early morning naps. Well, Jack lifted up the corner of the lid very quietly, got down like a mouse, crept on his hands and knees until he came to the table, when he crawled up and caught hold of the golden harp and dashed with it towards the door. Problem. The harp called out, Master, master. The giant woke up just in time to see Jack running off with his harp. Jack ran as fast as he could, and the giant came rushing after, and would soon have caught him, only Jack had a head start and dodged him a little bit and he also knew where he was going. When he got to the beanstalk, the giant was no more than 20 yards away when he suddenly saw Jack disappear. When he came to the end of the road, he saw Jack underneath, climbing down for dear life. Well, the giant didn't like trusting himself to such a ladder, so he stood and waited, so Jack got another head start. Just then the harp cried out, "Master, master!" And the giant swung himself down into the beanstalk, which shook with his weight. Jack down climbed Jack, and after him climbed the giant. By the time Jack had climbed down and climbed down and climbed down and climbed down until he was very near home. So he called out, "Mother, mother, bring me an axe, bring me an axe." His mother came rushing out with axe in hand. But when she came to the beanstalk, she stood struck still with fright, for there she saw the giant with his legs just through the clouds. Jack jumped down, took hold of the axe, and gave a chop at the beanstalk, which cut in half. The giant felt the beanstalk shiver, shake, and quiver, so he stopped to see what was the matter. Then Jack gave another chop with the axe, and the beanstalk was still cut in two and began to topple over. Then the ogre fell down and broke his crown, and the beanstalk came tumbling after. Jack showed his mother his golden harp, and was showing that in selling the golden eggs, Jack and his mother became very rich and married a great princess, and they lived happily ever after. So that is the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, one of my very, very favorites. But now it's time for you to go to bed. I love you very much. Good night.